Kirsty, let's talk boxing, rugby. There are harsher sports out there. Are we concentrating on the wrong things here for head injuries? I mean, I don't know if there's evidence that those sports also have a link between neurological diseases in later life, then they need to be looking at that. But I think overall the step the SFA taken seems like common sense to me. You know, if my wee girl turned out to be a star football player and there was something that suggested that the kind of repetitive heading the ball in training could potentially contribute to something bad happening down the line, then this is the kind of measure I would want put in place to protect her against that. So it just seems like common sense to me. Murray, do you think there's an element, some people might say that it's another example of wrapping kids up in cotton wool, they're not allowed to be kids anymore? Do you think that's an example of that?
No, I think when there is clear research that demonstrates that a certain behaviour is causing problems either now or in later life, then we'd be mad not to take action on it. So it seems like a sensible step. You can see why people would react like that, because heading balls is what kids have done in the playground for fun for a long time. It is actual part of the game. But the evidence from what I've seen is fairly clear. And if it is likely to cause dementia later in life, then it's clearly something that certainly at the level playing with children, it should be minimised.
And Leah, you have children, one of which is under 12.
Yeah.
Do you think this will make a difference? Because are under 12s heading the ball that much? I mean,
I never headed the ball.
Well, I can say neither one of my boys will be anywhere near a football from their own choice, not mine. But I mean, I was a primary school teacher, so we did football with the kids. So I mean, like, my understanding is, I heard one of the people from the SFA was talking about it. Like, they can still practice the skill, they can have foam balls and so on. So if that's really part of it, that's fine. They can still learn the skills without the impact. And it just seems, I mean, who's actually going to argue against it? And I heard of a football player talking about actually how uncomfortable it is to do it. Never having done it, I couldn't comment, but I'll take him for his word. So you think, well, if you're trying to encourage people to enjoy a sport and get on with it, then yeah, if they can practice it with foam ball, fine.
Well, one of the questions that we were talking about earlier, is this the SFA just trying to do something to look like they're doing something?
Well, if people aren't doing it, like if young kids aren't doing it, you would wonder why it's such a big issue in the first place.
Well,
some would ask.
Some might say.
Right, OK, let's move on. So
it is awards time of year again, and both the Oscars and the BAFTAs have been criticised for being too white and too male. Earlier this week it emerged 19 out of the 20 acting nominees in the Oscars this year are white. No woman had been nominated for Best Director. That came just days after the BAFTAs announced an all-white lineup of acting nominations.
it was also slammed for failing to nominate any women in the Best Director category for the 7th year in a row. There are also no nominations for non-white actors in the 4 main acting categories. But the edit did manage to find a female Oscar nominee. Glasgow's Christy Wilson Cairns is nominated for Best Screenplay for 1917, and David Farrell spoke to her and took a look at the runners and the writers.
Kirsty, are you surprised by that, and do you care?
I'm not surprised, because we talk about this every award season. You know, we have the same problems, and it doesn't seem like anything ever changes. And the annoying thing about this is, when we talk about meritocracy, people say, but it's just the best person that's nominated, the best person's won. But in saying that, you kind of accept that there's a demographic of white men which is inherently more talented than anybody else. Like, they've got something in their gene pool which means they're the best people to go into politics, they're the best people to be managers, they're the best people to be best director. They've just got all this talent above anybody else. So I read that the director, when they're choosing the nominees, it's actually chosen by directors. So if there's an over-representation of a certain demographic in that, it just makes this is always going to keep happening unless they change the way they choose the nominees. Then we're going to be talking about this time next year. Set your alarms. We'll be talking about it every year.
Murray, do you think it'll ever change? Do you see it changing? What do you think about Kirsty's point?
Is there a problem even?
I think it needs to, but it is interesting that the industry that is the most woke, if you could call it that, the ones that is always speaking out about major issues, is the one that has some of the biggest problems in it. And it does, I mean, the point that Lawrence Fox made on Question Time the other night, there is something in that. He had the point put to him about actors spending lots of money flying around the world and burning carbon. And he went, yeah, but we'll lecture you all about it. And that, it is actually a good point. So yes, I think there is a real issue there. And I think there is an issue clearly about the nomination procedures in there, but also surely the more fundamental issue must be about, are there enough female directors, are there enough BME actors or directors or producers in the industry? And that's something that's not going to change overnight, clearly.
So that's more a grassroots issue then, is it getting, get different generations, I suppose?
I guess so, and I think that industry's got to get a real grip of itself, because it's all very well to have to grandstand and to speak out on all these issues and fly a flag, but actually you need to do it.
Leah, it's interesting that, I mean, it has become, it used to be that, well, when I remember, you watched the Oscars and maybe about 50% of people watching it were no more interested in the films than anyone. It was the fashion, it was the glitz.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm in that category.
Very enthusiastic, Leah.
But, I mean, I suppose that's a very non-political thing as well. I mean, that's the side that kind of you can just...
But it can actually be quite political, because sometimes there are political statements in the things that people are choosing to wear. Like, and you can make headlines. I remember a while ago, Bjork decided to wear some sort of fantastical dress, and of course, Lady Gaga obviously makes statements in these things, so they can be quite political statements. But no, I am far more interested, I have to say, in the fashions of what people are wearing than these, sorry, but quite boring award ceremonies that people have to sit through. But I suppose my challenge would be is, if this is, and they are supposed to be such a woke kind of group, I would agree, is what are they going to do? Because if we're not going to have the situation like we've had year after year, what is it they're actually going to do? And I wonder if they can actually learn something from politics, actually, so that in terms of, can they have zipping of shortlists so that there is a gender balance, at least in the people that are being nominated, to ensure that there's a better chance of some women coming through? Because I know there's far more men are represented in being directors, but it's not all men, so surely there is a way of making sure, at least in the nominations process, that women are better represented.
Right. Just finally, is it worth going to see 1917? You're the only one that's seen it.
It's very, very good, very strong. Yeah,
worth seeing.
7.5 out of 10.
Very strong. Yeah. OK, well, that is about it for us tonight. We'll be back at the usual time of 7:15 next week. If this is your first time watching us, do join us then.
In the meantime, thanks to our panel, Kirsty Strickland, Leah Franchetti and Murray MacDonald, we will see you next Saturday night. So from all of us on the team, enjoy yourself, keep up to date on the BBC News website, and bye-bye.
Have a good day.